Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server and it's time to have a look at the Panzerhaubitze 2000. This is a massive artillery piece that is coming into War Thunder, not just for the Germans, but also at least one more tech tree. The PzH 2000 is a very modern SPH system. It's one of the ones that I've personally been hearing about since they started adding the SPH systems into the game from German players. They wanted this thing, and I can understand why. It's one of the ones which has all of the features that you would want out of this type of vehicle. It has a laser rangefinder, it has a really good reload, it has a very large gun, and it also has pretty good mobility even though it's 60 tons. So let's talk about the different variants that we have in the game right now. The first one is the German one, and you'll find it in the ground tech tree, basically between the Raketen Automat and the Ferdinand and Jagdtiger setup here. So it's a rank 5 vehicle, so you can run it at 7.7 with the M48, the Marder, and even at 8.0, I'm sure it will be fine too. This vehicle has a lot going for it in terms of what it has access to, so it can probably work. There is another set of them in the dev server too, well, at least one of them right now. The first one is the Panzerhaubitze 2000 HU. This is the Hungarian one, and as you can see, it is 80s style, so it is fully covered in a big old camo net that covers the tracks and everything else. This is a premium version of the 2000. It's going to be a rank 5 and battle rating 7.7 in the Italian ground tech tree. Now, there is also a Panzerhaubitze 2000 Italian edition that is sat in the files, but it's not in the game yet. So that might come in as an event, it might come in as a standard tech tree vehicle, it might not come in at all. We'll have to see as it goes forward. But right now, this is the other one that is in the tech tree for the Italians. So yeah, you can either get the standard one in the German tech tree, or you can get a decked out one in the Italian tech tree. Both are pretty much similar, just the camo net being the difference. So this vehicle has access to a 155mm Rheinmetall L52 howitzer, and it isn't stabilized, which shouldn't be a surprise, but what it does have is quite a few shells that will make it very fun to use. It is able to carry 60 shells, which is quite a lot. There's no first stage ammo stowage on this thing right now, and also it has a manual or at least assisted loader, which means that your crew skills do matter when it comes to loading. And with an ace crew, getting that down to 6 seconds is insane for a vehicle like this, which will donk vehicles all around the place. Now, the actual ammunition that this vehicle has access to, you have the M107, which is a pretty bog standard 155mm HE shell, 563 meters per second muzzle velocity, and also 61 millimeters of penetration, 9 kilos of TNT equivalent. You have a smoke shell, which is the M110, which will create quite a nice plumage, and then you have the M107PF, which is just the VT variant of the M107, and then you have this one. Now, I like this shell because it acts more like a standard shell that you would use, the 155mm OEF3. Now, the big difference between this and the M107, not the explosive mass, not the penetration, but look at that muzzle velocity. This one has 935 meters per second, where this one has 563. Now, at the end of the day, once you get the laser rangefinder on this thing, it probably won't matter what the muzzle velocity is. It might even be better to get the M107 one, because you can loop the shell over and hammer something. But at the same time, before you get that, if this modification becomes maybe a little bit earlier on, then it might be a lot better and make it a lot easier to use. The optics on the Panzerhaubitze are really nice, so you don't really have to worry about aiming too much. It does say that it has thermals, but right now it doesn't. It just has MVDs for everything, so I don't know if that's going to change or what's going to move around with that. Just seems like it's a little bit odd in terms of how that's set up. And also, one of the really cool things about this is the smoke grenades. Now, let me preface this, okay? I know smoke grenades is not a huge thing for most vehicles. Like, even if you have a look at all the vehicles around this BR, for the Germans, you have smoke grenades on like everything apart from the Weasel. Like the Leopard has them, the M48 has them, the Marder has them, all of these things. But if you have a look at, you know, general AT-GEM carriers, especially SPHs that have turned up, such as the M44, they don't have smoke grenades. They rely on the big smoke shells, which usually are attached to really long reloads, so you can smoke and then you have to reload again, and then by the time you've reloaded, the smoke is gone. So that's a bit of a problem. But the Panzerhaubitze actually has smoke grenades, so it can reposition, not just with, you know, the smoke grenades, but also with the transmission, which means that you can fly backwards in this thing, which is really cool. So for me, I actually really enjoy the simple fact that this vehicle is so mobile and also has the smoke grenades, because it gives it extra survivability a lot of these other SPHs don't have. For armor, the armor is not good, and it's never going to be good on these vehicles. You know, you're basically hoping that it doesn't get overpressured. It'll get overpressured and it'll get hammered. It has a composite screen on the top of it, so technically this will help it, maybe against artillery, but not really. So don't really rely on the armor, and also it's a huge machine. Like, I'll put it up against the vehicle in a test drive, and you'll see what I mean. It's absolutely massive, so you're not going to hide it anywhere, and because the whole of the ammo rack is the back, and these are all the charges, by the way, so they aren't like the kinetic heads. These will just go bada bing, bada boom, you're dead. So it's not going to work too well either. So just make sure that you understand that for this type of vehicle. You need to shoot first. If you shoot second, you die. Now, the vehicle has a 1,000 horsepower diesel engine on the 60-ton chassis, and, you know, actually moves around quite well because of the transmission, and it has a 5-man crew, 4 of them being in the turret, and then also you have the driver in the bottom here. Another thing that this vehicle doesn't have right now, and I'm not sure if it will or not, is it's one of the only new vehicles that doesn't have access to an updated damage model. So it doesn't have anything that's new. If you have a look at the Strela, you know, you have the FCS that they've added, the ammo crates, the power system, you know, the driver controls, even this like little piece of armor here, and it all looks really, really nice. Even stuff like this, the electronic equipment on the top. With the Panzerhaubitze, it doesn't have any of that now, so I don't know whether they're going to add that in later, or if they're going to do it. Or what they're going to do is they're going to just wait until like a later update and then add it then. But that would be very surprising, since it's one of the things they've focused on, especially with SPHs and other vehicles. So, would be odd. Maybe it's just not ready. It does have all the standard German camouflages, so don't be too surprised if you see a lot of people running around with the tri-color 3-tone carc, because that's easily the best one out of them. And very German is probably the way to put it. So it has pretty good gun elevation. I mean, it's literally an SPH. Gun depression is where it's going to let itself down probably the most in a vehicle like this. Like, you only have 2 degrees. The turret is a 360 degrees turret. The targeting speed is okay on it, especially since the dual drive on the tracks basically means that you can move around at a good click. But don't rely on the targeting speed to push you about the place, right? Like, that's going to be something that's pretty rough. So acceleration from 0 to 20 in this thing's pretty good. And remember, the transmission is designed to go forwards and backwards basically at the same rate. And the smokes themselves will keep this thing alive when they need to. And shooting at Soviet vehicles, well, it's always going to be a hit and miss whether you actually kill them. But with this crazy reload, what you can do is, you know, just laser rangefinder it up and then just go for it. If it was actually working properly, but it's just not, so never mind. Oh dear. What a shame. But I'm sure they'll get that fixed as this vehicle goes on. But it's a hefty beast. It also, funnily enough, does get the ammo box, so you can bring that along if you want. But just to show you how big this thing is, so that's lined up with an IT-1. Okay, the IT-1 isn't a huge vehicle, but it's still based off an MBT chassis. This thing is longer, it's wider, it's twice as tall as the vehicle. It is huge compared to it. And that has to be kind of commended for this type of vehicle. Now you're still trying to donk people with this, and you're still trying to just get in that HE and just smash vehicles, and it will do. And the gun itself, even on the move, is actually pretty stable for such a large gun. And at the same time, you know, with the reload being so well, you can actually afford to miss a shot and then hammer up with a second one. One of the problems with these SPHs is if the round doesn't go in, you can sometimes have a bit of a problem with actually taking out the target and going forward, right? But with this, it's okay if you kind of screw something up, because you'll be able to fire back pretty quickly. I get why people enjoy this thing, I really do, and I'm hoping that when it comes to the game, it also finds its place, just like the VDAR and the PLZ-05 before it, and people are able to have a bit of fun with it. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.